Today, I f***ed up by standing in below freezing temperatures for over an hour for school. I am your typical high school sophomore on the East Coast, where the recent snowstorm hit. Yesterday, we had a delayed opening to the snowfall, and yesterday went as normal. Today, we had another delayed opening as there was a lot of ice on the road. But there was one small problem. I was not aware of it. Our school district sends out these notices through phone calls and texts, and I, as a student, never got these. It was always my mother. Now that I am reflecting, I think my mom did mention a delayed opening, but me, being the guy I am, did not hear that until now. It's important to provide some background information. I emailed one of my teachers asking when the AP Psychology entrance exam was going to be taking place. And the teacher said, the AP Psych test will be after school on Wednesday, January 17th. Keep this in mind, as this is crucial to what happened today. Last night, I was staying up late doing some homework, and right around midnight when I was dozing off to sleep, I remembered the AP Psych test was today. I checked my email, but I was really tired, and somehow I can't even explain. But I'm sure you will understand I misread the email and read it as before school. So I set my alarm to 5:45. Of course, me being the absolute clown I was this morning, I did not double check the email. If I had, this entire situation could have been avoided, and I could have gone right back to sleep in my nice, warm bed. But no, I woke up, brushed my teeth, got myself ready, and made myself a bowl of cereal and ate it in my room to avoid waking my parents up. I then packed my backpack and somehow microwaved a bowl of pasta to take for lunch for a full minute without waking them up. To be fair, I was very quiet and pulled open the door before the beeping noise. I left around 6:30. But here's the absolutely brutal part. That could come back to kill me later. I sent a text to my mom as she was still asleep, and I hoped she would see it when she woke up, saying, I forgot to tell you last night, but I have the AP Psychology test this morning. I got everything ready myself, and by the time you are reading this, I likely already left. I'm fine, and I'll see you at home later. Very nice choice of words. As I was walking to the school, I passed by a nearby shop, and these grown men drinking coffee with the owner looked at me with my backpack and biology binder as if I had 3 eyes. So I nodded my head and said good morning to them as I passed by. That should have been the first red flag. I arrived at the school around 6:45, and I stood outside for 15 minutes before I started to wonder where the staff were. I posted to Twitter, guys, I'm standing in freezing cold outside waiting to take an early morning test, please pray for me. The temperature outside is 17 degrees Fahrenheit or -8 Celsius for the rest of the world. There is a park near my school, so I decided to walk around there waiting for the staff to open the doors. It was then I got the genius idea to finally check my email, and I slapped myself in the face and felt my heart sink when I saw, after school, but by this point, it was 7:05, and I figured I could last another 40 minutes, as the school doors open at 7:45, and the day begins at 8 o'clock. As you saw earlier, it was a delayed opening, and the day starts at 10 o'clock. So this is a 2-for-1 special deal. I began walking around in circles, and I actually recorded a video. Let me know if you guys want the upload. I'd have to blur personal information out closing parenthesis. It was while I was recording that I remembered. The park has a boys' bathroom, and although it would not be the cleanest option, standing in there for 40 minutes, it would have been far better than freezing outside. But then I saw it was closed, which likely meant it was locked. It was then I realized the absolute gravity of the situation. I couldn't go home, because then I assumed my parents were awake helping my little sister get ready for school, would have to confess my mistake, and I'd be in a huge world of trouble. I made it a goal to stay warm by any means necessary. But as I recalled in the video, the reason my hands are fine was because at the last minute before leaving, I decided to grab my pair of gloves that I originally believed I didn't need. I thought about going to that nearby shop that was open at this hour, but I figured that either the owner or one of the men might call my parents, and even if they didn't, they would see my phone's location and know something was up. At this point, my fingers and toes were burning, and I ended the recording to avoid wasting my phone's power and focus on keeping myself warm. I did not plan on making this post, but I always make these videos as if I'm talking to someone. So I said, I'll update you, and ended the video. Nice foreshadowing without me knowing it, huh? As I began walking in circles, I began to think of the pain that would arrive if I started experiencing frostbite. I know freezing to death is one of the worst ways to die, and I decided that I was going to rough it out. But if I began feeling super warm to the point I felt like removing my clothes. For those who don't know, if that happens in freezing weather, you're likely about to die. I would immediately run as fast as possible to that store and deal with the consequences later. I started talking to myself, thinking of all the ways it could be worse. I thought, what if it were -20 degrees, like in some areas of the country? Or, what if we had a delayed opening? I began imagining warm things. I don't even like hot chocolate. Weird, I know, but I started thinking of feeling the warmth of it. I began thinking of a nice hot shower, and the feeling with the heater running as I'm under the blankets as snow falls outside. It bought me some time, but eventually was freezing badly. I stared at the time passing by, and ended up talking with Siri to make the time go by quicker. Eventually, I stood by the front door of the school, thinking that if I passed out to the cold, somebody would see me and call for help, and it would be better than having that happen in the park, away from anybody else. A few minutes later, a member of the staff came by, and she told me we had a delayed opening, and I felt my heart sink. She jokingly said to go back to sleep, and I laughed as I began running home. I was beating myself for the mistakes I made today, but this may not even be the end of the story. When I got home, my parents were thankfully still asleep as I felt the nice warmth touch my now numb fingers and other parts of my body. But the dog was staring right at me, and the way he was looking at me makes me think he knows damn well the mistakes I made. A few minutes later, I sent my mom a text to try to cover this up, which said, "Well, I forgot to update you. I learned about the delayed opening and I am home. I'm ready and already wide awake, so I'm gonna do some homework due tomorrow. But eventually, it's possible I may be caught." Despite posting the story online being the obvious one, the other factor is that I was caught on cameras, not just by the school's security cameras, which I can play off as not knowing about the delayed opening, but also the doorbell camera that caught me leaving. I have a plan in place about what to say, but it's very likely I'll be caught. If I disappear from Reddit for a short while, this is why. And this is already assuming the dog doesn't snitch on me for what I did. So now in about an hour I have to go back outside, get through the school day of shame on 5.5 hours of sleep, and take my AP Psych test after school. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know if you'd like an update or something. Peace out. Look below, by the way, for the lessons you can apply to your own life. I predicted 2024 would be a crazy year, but not on the scale of almost freezing to death only halfway through the first month. When my nasty coworker gave my cell number to my mother that I was trying to cut out of my life. I spoke before in detail about my mother. Just know she's an extremely awful person, glad I have nothing to do with anymore. But this is about Ted, a coworker I used to have when I was in college and working part-time in a warehouse. Unlike me, Ted was a full-time employee, but he didn't act like it. We were about the same age, though. Ted was a snoop. He loved gossip, and he loved to look for things. Ted also spent long periods in the bathroom listening to his MP3, just to avoid working. The first time he got written up was for bringing XXX material to work, and reading it out in the open while on break. He called it BS, and said our manager was a prude, but no one else sided with him about it. The second time Ted got written up, it was because he gave my cell phone number to my mother. She called my job pretending to be my girlfriend, and Ted gave her the number without question. How did he get it? All employees had their numbers written down by the manager. Most of the employees were part-timers like me, and employee turnover rates were high, so the manager had all our numbers written down at the ready to call someone in to take over a shift when needed, which was surprisingly often. I wouldn't call the manager an unpleasant guy, but he kept everyone at arm's length. Anyway, Ted gave my mother my first cell phone number, and she immediately used it to start calling and harassing me. Oh, he got in trouble for it when I complained to the boss, because it was in the rules. You're not allowed to give out any personal information of your coworkers. Ted actually blamed the write-up he got for it on me, and claimed I should have warned him. I pointed out that if I had a girlfriend, then she'd already have my number. She wouldn't need to ask a stranger for it. Ted gave me attitude and stopped talking with me at all after that. Ted got fired a few months later after being caught snooping in the manager's office again, which he'd been forbidden from entering. He made a big show of yelling, "Screw you. Screw this job," when he grabbed his backpack and ran out. I saw him again about a year later in the area working for a landscaping service. I rode by on my bike and slowed down when I saw him working a lawnmower. He didn't seem to recognize me, but I recognized him. For more stories, subscribe to our channel and share your opinion in the comments.